Top 10 richest tennis players in history. Every sport has its wealthy elite. LeBron's billion-dollar empire, Tiger's Nike deals, Floyd Mayweather's cash-counting videos. But tennis has quietly built some of the most staggering personal fortunes in all of sports. And the numbers go well beyond prize money, well beyond Grand Slam checks and sponsorship banners courtside. The real wealth in tennis is built in boardrooms, brand deals, and business empires that most fans never even see. These are the richest tennis players in history, and some of these numbers will genuinely surprise you. Starting at number 10, Anna Kournikova, estimated fortune of $50 million. Here's the stat that makes this entry so fascinating. She never won a singles title on the WTA Tour. Not one. Yet, she built a $50 million fortune almost entirely off the court. At her peak in the early 2000s, Kournikova was one of the most Googled people on the entire internet. Adidas, Burley, Lycos, Charles Schwab. The endorsement deals kept coming regardless of what was happening in her match results. She understood something most athletes spend their whole careers never figuring out. The game is just the platform. The brand is the business. Her story is less about tennis and more about the power of image at the exact right cultural moment. And in that department, she played it perfectly. Now, before we move on, we'd like to ask you to consider subscribing to our channel to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We really enjoy making these videos for you, and this will help us continue to do so. Now, back to the video. Number 9. Pete Sampras, $150 million, 14 Grand Slams, a world number 1 ranking that stretched across the better part of a decade, and a fortune that often gets underestimated in these conversations. Sampras was never the loudest personality in the room. He didn't court controversy, didn't chase headlines, and wasn't particularly known for flashy endorsement campaigns. But quiet and understated doesn't mean financially unaware. His long-running deals with Nike and Wilson, combined with savvy investments and real estate holdings in Los Angeles, have compounded into a genuinely impressive number. The most dominant player of the 1990s turns out to have been just as disciplined with his money as he was with his serve. Boring? Maybe. Built to last? Absolutely. Number 8, Boris Becker. 3 Wimbledon titles, a world number 1 ranking, a personality so big it could fill any arena on the planet. At his peak, Becker was worth over $130 million, and his earning power was almost unmatched in European tennis. Racket deals, television contracts, management fees from coaching Djokovic at the height of his powers. But Boris Becker's financial story is also a cautionary tale that the tennis world hasn't forgotten. What came after the peak is well documented and deeply public. It's a reminder that building wealth and protecting wealth are 2 completely different skill sets, and sometimes being world-class at one has nothing to do with the other. Number 7, Andre Agassi, $175 million, 8 Grand Slams, an open-era career that reinvented what a tennis personality could look like, and then a second act that most athletes never managed to find. While Sampras was his quiet counterpart, Agassi was the brand. The look, the attitude, the Canon camera ads, the Nike partnership. He was one of the first tennis players to truly understand celebrity as a business in its own right. And when his playing days ended, he didn't walk away. He built. His charter school network and the Agassi Foundation in Las Vegas have become one of the most respected philanthropic operations in American sports. The mullet is long gone. The empire is very much still standing. Number 6, Maria Sharapova, $195 million, 5 Grand Slams, and a marketing machine that generated more revenue than almost any female athlete in the history of the sport. At her absolute peak, Sharapova was earning upwards of $30 million a year, and the majority of it had nothing to do with prize money. Nike, Tag Heuer, Evian, Porsche, the endorsement portfolio read like a luxury goods catalog. But the most underrated chapter of her financial story is Sugar Pova, her own candy brand that she launched and grew into a genuinely global product entirely on the back of her own name and distribution network. She didn't wait for a deal. She built the deal herself. When a 2-year doping ban threatened to derail everything, her business interests kept earning. That's what a properly built brand does. It outlasts the controversy. Number 5. Rafael Nadal. $220 million. 14 French Open titles and a business portfolio that operates with exactly the same relentless discipline as his baseline game. Kia, Banco Sabadell, Richard Mille, Tommy Hilfiger. His endorsement relationships are long, loyal, and carefully chosen. But beyond the sponsorships, Nadal has made deeply personal investments back into the sport itself. The Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca is not just a passion project. It's a functioning business and a global tennis institution that generates revenue, attracts international students, and carries his name into the next generation of the sport. He builds the way he plays, methodically, patiently, without shortcuts, until the opponent has no answer left. He's never flashy about the business side. He never is about anything. But the results speak clearly enough. Number 4. Novak Djokovic. $260 million. The most decorated player in men's tennis history, with 24 Grand Slam titles and a fortune built on 2 solid decades of refusing to accept second place, on the court or off it. His endorsement portfolio has never been as clean or as large as Federer's. His public image is more complex, his positions more polarizing, but what Djokovic has that nobody can argue with is longevity. He is still competing at the highest level, still winning, still signing. The number attached to his name is still actively growing in real time, which is something none of the players below him on this list can say anymore. His investments in nutrition companies, his business interests across Europe, his decade-long association with Lacoste and other partners, it all adds up to a fortune that's as durable as his backhand. Number 3. Serena Williams. $290 million and genuinely still climbing. 23 Grand Slam titles, the most dominant women's tennis career in the modern era, and a post-playing chapter that has already outgrown anything she did on the court in terms of financial scale. Because here's the thing, Serena Ventures, her venture capital firm, has invested in over 60 companies since its founding, with a portfolio that spans fintech, healthcare, consumer brands, and technology. She identified early that her platform and her network were worth more than any endorsement deal she could sign, and she deployed both accordingly. Nike, Beats by Dre, Wilson, Gatorade. The traditional partnerships were always there. But the real story now is a woman who used tennis to build access, and then used access to build something that will still be compounding wealth long after the last racket is put away. She's less tennis legend at this point, and more a full-time power investor who used to play tennis. The game made her famous. The boardroom is making her something else entirely. Number 2. Roger Federer. $550 million. The most elegant player in history built what might be the most elegantly constructed fortune in the history of professional sport. His 20-year partnership with Uniqlo, signed in 2018, was reported to be worth in the region of $300 million alone, a number so large it made the entire sports world stop and reconsider what a late career athlete could still command in the market. But the RF brand extends far beyond clothing. His own apparel line, his global ambassadorships with Rolex, Credit Suisse, Mercedes-Benz, and Lindt, his equity stakes, and his careful cultivation of an image that transcends sport and sits comfortably in the world of luxury and taste. All of it adds up to something that isn't really a sports fortune anymore. It's a lifestyle empire with a tennis career at its foundation. Federer understood earlier than anyone else that his name meant something beyond trophies, and he built accordingly. The results are extraordinary. And number 1, by a distance that makes everything else on this list look like a warm-up. Ion Tiriac, $2 billion. A name that a large portion of casual tennis fans have never once heard. A former Romanian professional tennis player, never a Grand Slam champion, never a world number one, who looked at the business landscape around the sport and decided to own it instead. Tiriac managed Boris Becker during the peak years of his career. He built one of the most powerful sports management and event promotion companies in European history. He owns banks. He owns car dealerships across Romania and Central Europe. He owns insurance companies, real estate portfolios, and a collection of financial interests so broad and so deep that tennis is almost a footnote in his biography at this point. He played the sport, then he bought the infrastructure around it. The wealthiest figure ever produced by tennis didn't win a single major title. He just understood money better than anyone else in the room. And in the long run, that turns out to matter more. The lesson here isn't complicated. Prize money builds a career, brand builds a business. And the players who understood that distinction early, who saw the racket as a starting point rather than the whole story, are the ones whose names appear on this list. Which player's financial story surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below.